Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden, your friendly neighborhood naturopathic physician, bringing 23, almost 24 years of clinical experience to the table, helping you to figure out how you can get so healthy you can stop taking all of your prescription medicines and you can do it safely, efficiently, and effectively. I'll even show you how to make money doing it, for goodness sake. Now, I was listening to the news today when I was driving to work, and it said, I couldn't believe it, New York State, or it might be New York City, they're trying to pass a law right now which bans the use or the selling of those big Slurpee drinks, you know, like the big 64-ounce, you know, Pepsi and Coke and pop bottles, right? And you know, the giant cups you can get now at places like McDonald's and Wendy's. They're trying to ban them because they are attempting to fight obesity. This is their solution to the obesity epidemic. Can somebody tell me when I took the pill that sent me down the rabbit hole into Wonderland, where everything is crazy, insane, upside down, and completely ass backwards? Can somebody please tell me when? They must have slipped it in my drink. They must have slipped it in my morning smoothie. They must have slipped it in my glass of red wine with dinner. When did they do that? Because I'm telling you, the world is insane. They're actually trying to pass a law which outlaws the big drink because they think that that's somehow related to obesity. I guess the idea is too much sugar equals too many calories equals obesity, and it's nonsense. It is completely the wrong way to think about the problem. But it is par for the course in a society whose medical system has been monopolized by one aspect of medical science. MDs, medical deities, do not own science. MDs are trained in one very small aspect of medical science, and they have pitched their perspective on medicine to us in such an aggressive, over-the-top, persistent manner that we actually believe that, oh, if the MDs can't fix it, then it can't be fixed. And we actually believe that everybody but the MD is a back-of-the-bus quack, even though the treatments delivered by MDs stink. They're the leading cause of death. They don't work. And their perspective on health is driving the obesity epidemic. The problem with obesity, the cause of the obesity epidemic in this country is the MD. It is MDs. It's the MD's fault. Well, what, you don't like, pointing the finger? Why not? Somebody has to be at fault. Somebody has to be at fault. Somebody had to throw the first punch. Somebody had to start the war. Somebody had to fund the war. There's something going on here, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody is to blame. Who is to blame? The people that are in charge of our medicine are to blame, because while the people that are in charge of our medicine have been in charge of our medicine, the healthcare epidemic has gone catastrophic. It's huge. It's huge. Why is it huge? Because the MDs are clueless about it. The MDs are colorblind art critics. They have no working conception, no appreciation, no understanding for anything outside of drugs and surgery, and you don't get obese because you have a stomach. Although the MD would like you to think it is, because what do they recommend? Lap band surgery. What do they recommend? Gastric bypass, where they actually cut your stomach out. That's their solution. What else do they recommend? Antidepressants. Oh, you must be overweight. You must be eating too much because you're depressed. Oh, we're just going to give you some Prozac. Doesn't work. It is insane, their view. And I'm choosing, again, I choose my words carefully. It sounds like hyperbole, but when you're in Wonderland and you're speaking the truth, it sounds like a crazy exaggeration. It's not. If you see somebody in your family that's obese, it's your doctor's fault. You are paying hard-earned money every month to gain access to these knuckleheads. You're shelling out hundreds of dollars a month, and their treatments are failing you. Stop it. Big gulpies are the cause of obesity. The other thing they tried to outlaw in New York City, believe it or not, was salt. Can you believe this and craziness? One of the most important nutrients that the human body needs is table salt. Table salt is sodium chloride, NaCl. Stomach acid is hydrochloric acid, HCl. Your stomach needs the Cl chloride from the NaCl, the table salt, to make hydrochloric acid. If you're on a salt-restricted diet, your stomach acid is going to be in the gutter. It's going to be weak. It's not going to be able to digest anything out of your food. And there's no relationship between salt and high blood pressure. That was proven in 1958 by a doctor from Harvard. Published a study that proved it. Salt is not the enemy. The MD is the enemy. But as a matter of fact, whatever your doctor tells you to do exactly the opposite. You have a better chance of a healthy outcome. As God is my witness. These people, they're in the upper echelons of society. Why? Because that's just the way that society's been. They're like the kings and dukes and princes of old. They got that way just because everybody agrees that, they're the kings. Guess what? There's no reason to put your MD on a pedestal. There's no reason at all. They're just normal people like you. They're not any smarter than you. MDs are not, medical people are not any more smart than you are. As a matter of fact, most, blue-collar people have street smarts that the MDs completely lack. Also, most MDs are completely cowardly. They are uncourageous. They are unwilling and unable to step outside of their little tiny box, even though they go to work every day and they see that it doesn't work. It's like a club of the insane. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just nuts, where we've come in this country. But fear not, we have a solution. If you're suffering from a chronic health condition, if you have a problem with weight, you have a problem with arthritis, you have a problem with type 2 diabetes, you have a problem with eczema, fibromyalgia, depression, insomnia, anxiety and panic attacks, irregular heartbeats, high blood pressure, going to an MD for help with those conditions is a fool's errand, and their therapeutics will hurt you. And in the best case scenario, simply manage the illness. They can't fix it. If you want sound medical advice from a licensed physician about alternatives to drugs and surgery, science-based, clinically verified, call me up. We've got the answer. We have the best-kept secrets in medicine in the United States right here, right now, every day, Monday through Friday, 4 to 5 p.m. Central Time. 866-582-9933 is the number, 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. We're going to go right to the phones right now. Rick from Virginia has a question about plant-derived minerals. Rick, you are live.
Thanks, Dr. Glidden. I appreciate it. Taking the plant-derived minerals now, actually on your recommendation, because I had called a few weeks ago, and I was curious as to why in there are things like aluminum, barium, things that are, I've known to be toxic and should be avoided. And I was wondering why those things are present in the plant-derived minerals.
Because they're not toxic and they're not to be avoided. And that's an excellent question. You now, Rick, are the smartest guy in class because you're actually paying attention. You're reading the labels. You are an informed consumer. And my hat's off to you. If more people were like you in the United States, we wouldn't have a health care crisis. If more people were like you in the United States, everybody in this country would be healthy, and everybody in this country would be wealthy, because we need to all put our heads on. We need to get this stuff straightened out, ladies and gentlemen, because we are dying for no reason, no good reason. So, there are interesting misconceptions in the world of science, and I have a blog. It's called Medical Mythbusting. And I spend a lot of time hammering the MDs because they deserve it, number one. But in holistic medical circles, there's a lot of misinformation as well. For instance, let's talk about aluminum, all right? Aluminum is the most abundant element in the Earth's crust. There's more aluminum in the soil than any other mineral, which means that vegetarians, by definition, have higher levels of aluminum in their body than anybody else, because vegetarians eat more vegetables and more fruit than anybody else. And vegetables and fruit, of course, are grown in the soil, and since there's more aluminum in the soil than any other mineral, vegetables and fruit are high in aluminum. So, if there was any validity to the false notion, and it's a false notion, that aluminum is bad for you, every vegetarian on the planet would be sick or dead. Now, this whole aluminum myth that aluminum is bad was started years ago by a couple of researchers. I think they might have been from the University of Missouri, but don't quote me on that. But anyway, somebody published a study that was, I think it was published in JAMA or the New England Journal of Medicine, that linked high rates of aluminum to Alzheimer's disease, because what they did was they took sections of the brain of Alzheimer's patients, put them on little petri dishes, stained them, and then did different types of analyses on the brain tissue from Alzheimer's patients. And what they discovered was there was an increasingly large amount of aluminum in the samples of the Alzheimer's patients, and they published that, and it was, all over the press, all around the world. Oh, aluminum linked to Alzheimer's disease, right? Well, about 2 weeks after the study was published, one of the lab techs, one of the lab rats, the people assisting the big PhDs and the big MDs, noticed that the petri dishes that the brain tissue samples were cultured in were made from aluminum. Imagine that. So they did exactly the same study with exactly the same brain. Well, they couldn't have used exactly the same brain tissue, but they just sliced more tissue off of the same brain, cultured it again in plastic petri dishes that didn't have any aluminum, and guess what? There was no aluminum in the sample. So the very next edition of the medical journal that published this, they retracted it. And I don't know if you've ever read a medical journal, but the retractions, most of the time, are listed way in the back. I mean, you really have to hunt for the retractions. They're in small type. They're not big headlines because, the journal doesn't want to advertise that it misrepresented the truth, right? So the retractions are way in the back. They retracted the fact that aluminum had anything to do with Alzheimer's disease, but by that time the jig was up. The news was out, and everybody incorrectly believes that aluminum is a problem. It is not. It is a medical myth. Medicine advances one funeral at a time. Max Planck said that, and what he means is, myths populate somehow into the collective consciousness, and there they sit, for better or for worse, until that generation dies out. So one of the myths that we've got going on here is this ridiculous notion that aluminum is related to Alzheimer's. It's not. Here's another one, arsenic. There was this big thing 3, 4, 5 months ago with Dr. Oz, right, where Dr. Oz was saying, there's high levels of arsenic in apple juice, and mothers all across the country freaked out, mothers who were stupid enough to listen to anything that Dr. Oz says, freaked out, and all of a sudden apple juice sales plummeted, and the apple juice company sued Dr. Oz, right? Well, the whole thing was about arsenic. What Dr. Oz doesn't know, because he's a pea-brained MD, and I'm choosing my words carefully, is that arsenic is necessary in the human body to prevent leukemia. As a matter of fact, there was one very progressive cancer treatment place in New York City that was using intravenous arsenic as a treatment for leukemia, and it was one of the most successful treatments around. Of course, drug companies are not into that because there's no money in arsenic, because it's a naturally occurring substance, and so they poo-pooed it. I believe that the clinic that was doing it is out of business right now. Here's another medical myth. Lead. Oh, lead is bad, right? And we think about little ghetto children eating lead paint and, getting all kinds of diseases from it. Well, lead is bad if you do too much of it, but lead is also necessary for the synthesis of DNA. If you didn't have lead in your body in sufficient amounts, you couldn't make DNA and your cells couldn't reproduce themselves. Here's another one. DNA is called deoxyribonucleic acid. You know what the ribo stands for? It's ribose. DNA is made from sugar. It's made from sugar. And everybody thinks, sugar's evil, sugar's evil. We need to be on a sugar-restricted diet. It's got nothing to do with sugar. Sugar is the gasoline for your body. Your body needs it. Your body needs lead. Your body needs arsenic. Your body needs aluminum. It needs these things. Now, listen, it's all relative, baby. Too much of anything is bad, except love. I don't think you can ever have too much love. That's another story. But if you're adrift on a raft in the Pacific Ocean, the sunlight's going to kill you. Too much sunlight will kill you, right? If you drink a gallon of water every hour, you will die. Because that much water will kill you. So too much water will kill you. Too much of anything will kill you. There's a limit, and there's something in the pharmaceutical industry which trickles over into vitamins as well, called the lethal dose, the LD50, which stands for lethal dose 50, which means the amount of stuff necessary to kill 50% of the people who take it. LD50. Everything has an LD50. Milk has an LD50, right? Everything has an LD50. I calculated the LD50 for the liquid plant minerals, the liquid plant-derived minerals that we have. It would take 150 bottles of liquid plant minerals in one day to actually generate physical harm. 150 bottles in one day. There's no way anybody could possibly do that. So you don't need to worry about these types of things because they are all grounded in medical myths. What you do need to worry about, and what you need to be very, in fact, worried about, is not that you're getting too much of this stuff, but you're getting not nearly enough. Because all chronic illnesses, according to Linus Pauling, which is backed up by Dr. Wallach's research and Dr. Wallach and my clinical experience, all chronic illness is caused by mineral deficiencies. It is much more dangerous to have not enough aluminum in your body than it is to have too much. It is much more dangerous to have not enough lead in your body than it is to have too much. We have all of this information backwards, right? It's all backwards. And that's why everybody in this country is sick. Everybody is sick because we've been listening to the wrong people for the last 100 years. And we've been listening to, we've been taking our computers to the plumber to get them fixed. We've been taking the Chihuahua on the deer hunt, right? The wrong dog for the hunt. We've been going to the wrong people. The only reason we've been going to the wrong people is because they're the only people around because they've monopolized the industry. So listen, Rick, you really are the smartest man in the class. Keep your eye on the ball here. Stay listening to this radio station. You're going to hear testimonials every week. They're going to blow your mind because this stuff works, and when you feed your body the right stuff, it responds. I always say it's your lucky day, but today it's your super duper uber lucky day because for the next 10 minutes we have with us in the studio a legend in the world of holistic medicine, a legend in the world of medical research. He's on a very tight time schedule. I'm going to give you his bio at the end in the last segment of this radio show. So for right now, let me just say, Dr. Joel Wallach, it is a pleasure and an honor to be talking to you. Welcome aboard.
Well, thank you, Dr. Glidden, for the kind words, and appreciate your hospitality. I appreciate sharing your audience with you.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, Doc. So you told me a little bit ago that you had some interesting news from the medical community. Share it with us.
Well, on the good side, there was a big news release either yesterday or today. It's in the New York Times. It was on Fox News. I haven't seen it myself, but I'm getting a stream of calls. The New York Times had a story about that exercise is bad for you. Now, how long have I been saying that? 40 years. Unsupplemented exercise is dangerous. That's why the audio cassette tape / CD, Dead Athletes Don't Lie. So I'll be very interested to read that. So keep your eyes open for the story. It's a New York Times story.
Well,
at any rate,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, it's all you, boss. After you.
Okay. Well, the horror story is this. I talked to a 45-year-old woman today. She'd had 30 surgeries in the last 7 years. Over the last 7 years, they took out her entire large intestine, half of her small intestine, her gallbladder, her appendix. And they really didn't know what was wrong with her, but they just kept taking things out because she kept complaining about discomfort in her belly. She did have psoriasis her whole life, so you know what's happening here. she actually had a gluten intolerance. And I said, well, do you ever have any doctor tell you about gluten intolerance? She says, no, but I did a little research on my own on the Internet, and I found that I probably had IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Yeah, that would have been my diagnosis. And, oops, sorry about that. Let me turn that off. Okay, and I told her that her intestines looked like her skin when she had psoriasis, and the intestines would have healed in 2 weeks just like her skin did when she got on a gluten-free diet.
That's
and
right.
She's wanting to know what nutritional program she needed to be on. Of course, she only weighed 104 pounds, typical. There's two extremes of celiacs, gluten intolerance people. They either are very thin or very big, very overweight. And here's a case where all they had to do is put her on a gluten-free diet, put her on the 90 for life, and in 2 weeks' time she'd have been cured. But over a period of 7 years, she had 30 surgeries, of which the doctors already paid for. She was at risk every time she was anesthetized to do these surgeries. And all the pathologists should be put in jail because none of them ever saw the gluten and damaged her intestines. They just kept chopping her intestines out. Now she's wearing a bag. She has no energy because she has to really eat high concentrated food, so I instructed her on how to eat properly with eggs in her protein drink and how to make it with heavy whipping cream and all that kind of stuff. And these are the sort of things that the doctors do all the time. I mean, they kill, injure, and infect 15 million of their patients in their workplace every year, and they get a walk. I have to scratch my head, and I applaud you for your radio program and why you tell people to fire their MD. They really need, everybody needs to do it. Tell them they're Donald Trump and the MD is the apprentice and they're fired.
That's right. Now, you have a very interesting story going back to this original thing about exercise, right? Tell us about the lecture that you were giving years ago in Arizona with the aerobics queen, and she walked out of the lecture. Tell us that story.
Yeah, it was actually the LA Fitness Center. It was in Atlanta. And I was asked to give this lecture on the negatives of exercise and why you needed to supplement with the 90 essential nutrients, why to take our Rebound sports drink to replace everything you're sweating out, because sweat is a soup, not just water. And the LA Fitness Center owner said, look, come on in, Dr. Wallach, I'll give you a half hour to give a lecture just on the nutrition of athletes and why they need to supplement and why they need to take the Rebound instead of Gatorade with two nutrients, and you have 100 nutrients in your Rebound, and I'll give them a free month if they come in. So they had 300 people in there. Well, here's this aerobics personal trainer. I mean, she was gorgeous, drop-dead gorgeous. She could have been a cover girl on any magazine, wearing a $1,000 silk tutu, right? Yeah. Sitting in the audience, and you could see her fidgeting around. She really didn't like it. Halfway through it, she stood up and literally conga danced out without the music, conga danced out up to the middle aisle, and half the people in there, 150 of them were her clients, got behind her and all conga danced out the meeting, and she's yelling, it's not the nutrition, it's aerobics and strength training. Aerobics and strength training, not the nutrition. Well, about a month later, I started getting literally hundreds of calls from Atlanta wanting the Rebound. And finally I asked people, I said, why are you calling for the Rebound? Because I'm getting so many calls from Atlanta. And they said, well, remember that gal that disrupted your meeting a couple of months ago? I said, well, yeah, how do you forget that? It was the worst meeting I ever had. well, at noon, during the busiest time of this LA Fitness Center in Atlanta, they had 1,000 people in there. She drops dead, 32 years old. She drops dead. Right, she's running on the treadmill, kind of showing off to everybody. She drops dead. Everybody's so freaked out and stunned. Nobody turned the machine off, so the machine rips her clothes off, rips her skin off by the time the EMTs got there. And, I mean, she's deader than a doornail. And, of course, I mean, that was an expensive way to learn that you needed to take the 90 essential nutrients and the Rebound instead of Gatorade and water. What a tragic story on one hand, but it sure was dramatic for the hundreds of people there in that LA Fitness Center.
Well, the truth will out, right? Yeah, the truth will out. So it was probably a cardiomyopathy heart attack.
Yeah,
right?
It was a cardiomyopathy heart attack, a selenium deficiency. And there was 75,000 to 100,000, according to the Center for Disease Control out of Atlanta, young people in America under the age of 30 who drop dead while exercising each year.
Yeah.
We see the high-end ones, in the newspapers. We're talking about this is the most common cause of sudden death in young people in America, cardiomyopathy heart disease, which is a simple selenium deficiency. And, of course, our Rebound has selenium in it. Some of them die from a copper deficiency, which is ruptured aneurysms. Totally, totally unnecessary. And I find it amusing that people like the benchers, the ones who sit on the bench, never die of this. It's always the best players, the first-line players that play all the time, exercise, sweat the hardest. Librarians never die of this kind of stuff while they're working, right, in the air-conditioned libraries. And the librarians live to be 100, and athletes, football players in America live to be 51 on the average. Professional athletes, when you take in all sports, live to be 62. And there's never been, with the exception of 3 black guys from the old Negro baseball league days back in the 1920s, there's never been a professional athlete that ever lived to be 100. So exercise without supplementation, Dr. Glidden, kills.
Yeah, it's suicide. I mean, exercise without supplementation is suicide. Now, this is very interesting. I was talking to Gerhard Schrauser a couple of months ago. Ladies and gentlemen, Gerhard Schrauser is a very well-respected scientist. He was a professor emeritus at, I believe, the University of San Diego. Is that right, Doc?
That's right, UCSD.
Yeah, and I was talking to him about this phenomenon, and he has this very thick German accent. He said, well, Dr. Glidden, it's very tragic because back in Germany, before World War II, we had this phenomenon. It was called athlete's heart. And we noticed that when the athletes would come in and they'd have big, big hearts, it was all because of not enough selenium. They knew this before World War II, but nobody in this country knows this, and we're dropping like flies for lack of knowledge. Why? Because everybody trusts their trainer. The trainers are only trained in narrow-viewed medical nutrition delivered by MDs who have no training, no respect, no appreciation at all for medical nutrition. As God is my witness, we suffer and die in this country for no good reason. Why? Because we've taken the wrong dog to the hunt. It's that simple.
Well said, Dr. Glidden. I'll just add one more thing. Dr. Milan and I went to China for 6 weeks, and we did 1,200 autopsies, 1,200 autopsies on kids under the age of 10 who died of what's called Keyshan disease, which is a selenium deficiency. There's no selenium in the soil. There's one province, and if these kids don't eat right, they all die before they're 10 years of age with cardiomyopathy heart disease. This enlarged heart thing. And, of course, now, after our research was published in scientific journals in English and Chinese and in international pathology journals, and because of this in that province, every kid in this Keyshan province, China, gets a multiple and a selenium capsule, and it immediately stopped all the deaths. Every day when they go to school, the teachers give them their multiple vitamin and their capsule of selenium. It eliminated all these deaths.
So the kids in communist China are healthier than the kids in the United States of America.
They are treated better nutritionally than the kids in the United States. That is true.
Well, it's an interesting thing to think about because, ironically, most people's pets have better nutrition than people do.
Oh, absolutely. We've tripled the lifespan of dogs over the last 60 years. 6 years ago, an old dog was 8. 10 years old dog is 25. We've eliminated 900 different diseases just by adding vitamins and minerals to their food. That's because we don't have health insurance for the pets. In humans, it's just the opposite. We have health insurance, and so doctors have learned to game the insurance plan. They have learned to extract every penny you have in your insurance policy, even to the extent they admit to lying to get the money out of your insurance policy. Rather than treat the patient, they use your insurance policy as an ATM machine.
Yeah, I mean, just look at Steve Jobs, right? Michael Jackson, right? Some of the richest men in the world, they've got access to what most people would consider the best, quote-unquote, medical care, and they're deader than doornails. Why is this? Because they went to MDs. It is a tragedy here. It's a tragedy of biblical proportions, and you're absolutely right. You know, medicine in the United States, not only is the philosophy of medicine that MDs bring to bear on the treatment of people with chronic disease completely wrong, completely backwards. Not only is their philosophy completely wrong, but their industry is a for-profit medical industry. Medicine in the United States is not based on results. It is based on profits. And when you have an out-of-control, for-profit monopoly in any area of life, people are going to get hurt. And it is a big problem. And this is, I really respect you a lot, Doc, because you've been beating this drum for 40 years. You've been going all around the country. How many lectures do you give a year?
Well, up until this year, I've been giving 300 lectures a year for 35 years. This year it's going to be over 400, Dr. Glidden, because I'm starting to do 2 and 3 a day now.
A little bird told me you've got a birthday coming up, Doc, in early June. How old are you going to be?
Well, it depends on whose calendar you use. If you use the Chinese calendar, I'll be 73. If you use the Western calendar, I'll be 72.
72, still going strong, 300 lectures a year. Do you ever charge for any of your lectures?
No, they're absolutely free.
Absolutely.
And, of course, it's a mission greater than any of us, I think. It's one of those things that if we can get everybody to do what I've done, I haven't been to a doctor with me being the patient for 64 years. I've never in my entire 72 years of life been on a prescription drug. If everybody were to do that, the medical system would become very humble, wouldn't they?
Yes, that's right. The only way we're ever going to change anything is just by stopping using their services.
You got it.
Dr. Wallach, you're an inspiration. You're my mentor. You're my colleague, and you're my friend. I want you to go out there, buddy, and give them both barrels because you are the man. Thank you so much for calling in. Thank you for everything that you do, and I'll look forward to talking to you in the future.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Glidden. Thank you to your audience. God bless you. Everybody loves you. That's why we call you Rambo, because you are the man. 2.0. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're hearing it from the horse's mouth. I told you, didn't I? Cancel your comprehensive medical insurance. If you don't, you're going to be abused. Welcome back, folks. If you are interested in getting healthy but worry that you can't afford it, if you need help ordering your supplements or getting information about what we do, then call my friendly longevity support team. They'll hold your hand. They'll walk you through the process. They'll tell you what to do. They'll even show you how you can get your supplements for free. So take advantage of this. Give us a call, okay? 855-347-3696. That's 855-347-3696. 855-347-3696. And, of course, if you lose that number, just do a Google search for Dr. Glidden. That's Glidden like the paint, no relation. Or just go to fireyourmdnow.com. If you do the Google search, I pop up number 1 all the time. Fire Your MD Now. That's pretty easy to remember. Just put a .com after it, and all the information is there. We are here to lift you into health, and if you're willing and able, also show you the way to wealth. Now, you know, Dr. Wallach is a superstar in the annals of medicine, and every industry in the world has people that excel at what they do, right? You know, back in the day, it was Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Michael Jordan, Bobby Orr, Michelangelo, Da Vinci, the Beatles, right? You know, Albert Einstein. There are people in walks of life that excel at what they do. They're just better at it for whatever reason. Well, in the world of medicine, Dr. Wallach is a superstar. A little bit about Doc's bio. Doc's been published over 75 times. He was one of the people that wrote the Animal Welfare Act. There's a law in the United States called DSHEA, which is an acronym for the Dietary Supplement Health Enforcement Act, which separates pharmaceutical companies from vitamins, which allows us to get vitamins without a prescription from an MD, and which also keeps the pharmaceutical industry's clammy, grubby, blood-stained hands off of the production of vitamins and minerals in the United States. Dr. Wallach was one of the major players in getting that law passed. Not bad. All of the white rhinos that you see in zoos anywhere in the world today were either captured by Dr. Wallach or are offspring of animals captured by Dr. Wallach. While he was working for 2 years in South Africa in the bush, he saved an entire species from going extinct. Dr. Wallach was in charge. He has the longest-running health talk radio show in U.S. history. He's called the Rush Limbaugh of health talk radio. It's called Dead Doctors Don't Lie. And that lecture, Dead Doctors Don't Lie, is an audio CD now. Back in the day, it was a cassette tape. You may have gotten one in the mail because the recording of his lecture given in St. Louis about 25 years ago, which is called Dead Doctors Don't Lie, has sold over 100 million copies. You know, he's written 11 books. He sued the Food and Drug Administration 8 times on your behalf. And by the way, makes no money from any of the sales of any of the vitamins in Youngevity. 0. He removed himself from that revenue stream. So his stupid, slimy, cowardly critics couldn't come out of the bushes and say, oh, that Wallach, he's just trying to make money selling vitamins. Pay no attention. He's just selling snake oil. Well, guess what, buddy? He doesn't make any money at all selling nutritional supplements. 0. Now, if you had the choice, if you wanted to learn how to play basketball and you had the choice to get coached by Michael Jordan or by your high school basketball coach, who are you going to choose? You're going to choose Michael Jordan. If you wanted to learn about nuclear physics and you had the choice to get taught by Stephen Hawking or by your high school physics professor, who are you going to choose? You're going to choose Stephen Hawking. If you are interested in recovering your health without prescription medicines or in spite of, if you want science-based, clinically verified alternatives to drugs and surgery, things that actually work, you better pay attention to Dr. Wallach. So where are you going to go? You're going to go to Dr. Wallach, or you're going to go to the clerk at the health food store who maybe read a book on the wonders of vitamin C. You better choose Wallach, because when you choose Wallach, you will win every time. God is my witness, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Wallach has forgotten more about medicine than most physicians know. Lean on us. Lean on Youngevity. Step up. Recover your health. And God bless you. Give us a call. We've got people standing by to help you right now. 855-347-3696. And visit us online. Fire your MD now. Tomorrow it's Friday, and you know what that means. Show me the money Friday, ladies. We've got a guest that's going to blow your socks off. I'll see you then.